I'm holding in my hand here a bag of all the hair I've shed in one day. I wonder how much is in here. Let's get into it. What's up guys, Trav White here. Welcome back to the channel where we talk style, grooming, and hair care. If you enjoy those topics, then please blow up that like and subscribe button and come join the family. So one of the most asked questions I get is, should I be worried if I lose hair when I shower? How much hair fall is normal? Am I balding or am I just shedding? How do I know what's happening? Because when you have short hair, you rarely ever notice hair fall. And then all of a sudden, when you start growing your hair out, it gets longer. All of a sudden your shower drains are getting clogged. You're going crazy wondering if you're going bald. So I'm just gonna answer that question in this video, and stick around to the end because I will be counting all of the hairs that I have shed in one day to let you know how many I lose. So the first thing I will say is that hair fall is totally normal. I think the number I see in pretty much every blog post I've read and every video I've seen is that 50 to 100 hairs lost in a day is completely normal. Now, I'm not sure where exactly that range of numbers came from. I don't know if like a scientist took 1,000 people and measured how many hairs fell out of someone's head in one day, but that seems to be the consensus. And we'll see in my baggie here if that's under, even, or above, so stick around to the end. But before we count the hair, I wanna go over some of the main causes of breakage and give you some tips to reduce how much hair fall and hair shedding you have in a day. So the first thing I will say is that if you have fine textured hair like I do, then unfortunately your hair is much more prone to breakage. It's thinner, it breaks off easier, it holds less protein than coarser hair. That's just the way it is. That's the genetic hand we were dealt. So if you're sitting there wondering how to find out what your hair texture even is, then go watch this video that I made, The Ultimate Guide to Men's Hair Types, and you can discover the exact hair type you have, and texture is included in that. I'll also link the PDF in the description down below for you guys to download. Next point, the most common cause of breakage will be on the days that you shampoo and condition. This is one of the reasons I suggest cutting back on how often you wash your hair, because this does cause shedding. So unless your hair is like genetically greasy, I would recommend no more than like 2 to 3 times per week of washing, because the cortex gets swollen, the cuticle scales get raised, and when you're scrubbing your hair, trying to get all that dirt and oil buildup out, it's totally normal that during that process, you're gonna have hair shed. I'll pull up a photo real quick of all the hair fall that I have after just one shower, after shampooing and conditioning. And this is even following all of the advice I give on washing your hair correctly, like gentle scrubbing, using lukewarm water, shampooing the scalp, conditioning the ends, all of those things. This is still the amount of breakage that I had. So some mistakes to avoid when washing: don't scrub with too much friction. And what I mean by that is, don't rub your hands back and forth on top of your hair too tightly. Instead, you want to get your fingertips inside your hair and directly onto your scalp. And you really want to massage the scalp and scrub that shampoo in, because this avoids breaking the hair on top of your head like that, because it can be the highest friction and the most tangled. It also simultaneously stimulates blood flow to your scalp when you give yourself a really nice scalp massage. And then when it comes to drying your hair, you don't want to rub it too roughly with a towel. This just adds to the friction of already vulnerable wet hair. I will say blow dryers are fine to use as long as they're on the lowest heat setting or on cool, and they're at least 6 inches away and constantly moving around. Unless you have like curly hair or your hair frizzes up when you use a blow dryer, then just avoid the blow dryer altogether. So I would also suggest on cutting back on the number of times that you rinse your hair with just water, because when your hair is wet, it's more vulnerable to breakage. Again, it's swollen, and if you wet your hair every single day, this can lead to your hair getting tired from HYGRAL fatigue, and more protein loss happens every time you wet your hair. Over time, this could cause breakage. But if you work out quite a bit, if you sweat a lot and you're sitting there wondering, well, how am I supposed to keep my hair fresh? Go check out this other video I made, how to refresh sweaty gym hair without washing or wetting it. Okay, the third thing is sometimes hair breaks from your follicle but doesn't actually fall out of your head. So these are hairs that have just come to the end of their growth cycle, which means that they've entered that telogen phase and the follicle is no longer supplying blood flow for a few months and it detaches from your scalp. Now these hairs might not actually fall out of your hair until you brush it, or maybe you apply like a coconut oil. Many guys have told me that when they put coconut oil in their hair, all of a sudden they're just like pulling out tons and tons of hair, and they think that like the oil is melting off their hair and they have a freak out. But this actually is the hairs that have already broken off from ending their telogen phase. When you just put oil through your hair, it just picks up those dead hairs as they stick to your hand. So don't freak out if you see a little more hair coming out after you apply oil. This is just hair that has already died. Okay, so the next common time you will see breakage is when you brush your hair. There is a way to brush your hair to minimize breakage, but you will inevitably get a few hairs that get caught in your comb or brush and break off. So in order to minimize that as much as possible, the correct way to brush your hair is to start with a wide tooth comb to detangle it. And you want to start at the ends and then slowly work your way up the shaft and the mid shaft. And if you start to feel resistance, to stop, take your comb out and then start again. You don't want to push through it, because that is how you break off healthy hairs that aren't in their telogen phase yet. So if you feel resistance, stop, pull the comb out, and then start again and gently work at it until you detangle it. And once you work all the way up to your roots and you can run your comb from your roots all the way down to your ends without anything catching, then you can switch to a boar bristle brush, a wooden brush, or a nylon paddle brush, so you can spread those natural oils from your scalp down to your ends. Now you might get a few more hairs that break off at this point because the bristles on these brushes are much closer together. So you will want to do the same process. You're going to want to start at the ends and then work your way up, and then kind of detangle it again with these tighter bristles, and then work your way from the roots to the ends and spread those oils. And again, if there's any resistance, stop, pull the brush out, and start again. Some mistakes to avoid when brushing. Mistake number one is pushing through when it catches. Just don't do that, it's gonna increase breakage. Brushing your hair when it's wet. You want to avoid that because your hair is much weaker when it's wet, and brushing already causes a little bit of breakage. So adding friction to weak, wet hair is not a great way to reduce breakage. It's actually going to cause more of it. So yeah, no wet brushes. Dry your hair first before you decide to brush. Okay, so now that you know the most common causes of breakage and how to minimize it with best practices, it is unfortunately impossible to stop it completely. It's just gonna happen, especially if you have fine hair like me. So I'm gonna go into this baggie, which is from a full day of brushing, shampooing, and conditioning. I do this 1 to 2 times per week. So the other 5 days a week, I probably lose a little bit less since I'm only brushing on those days and I'm not shampooing and conditioning. But let's jump over and let's count these hairs. Okay, so here we are, and I had to put it on like a dark sheet of paper so I could actually see these hairs, because yeah, I couldn't see it on this light desk. So here we go, I'm just gonna start counting. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, and these are just tiny baby pieces that have probably broken off. 68. There you have it, guys. 68 pieces of hair. There you go. So yeah, guys, there you have it. 68 hairs fall out of my hair on average in a day. When I shampoo, condition, brush my hair. It's probably a little less on days I don't shampoo and condition. Just from brushing, I would guess anywhere from 20 to 30 hairs fall out of my hair. But yeah, 68. If you guys are having hair fall and hair shedding and it looks like it's this big monster of clogging your drain pipes, like, it's okay. Don't worry, don't freak out. It's totally normal. And if you think that you're shedding so much to the point where you're actually changing hair types from like a thick density to a thin density, or you see a receding hairline, then that's the time when you might want to talk to like a trichologist, which is a hair and scalp doctor, and just talk to them about what's going on. It could be a lot of things. things. It doesn't mean that you're balding. It could mean you're balding, but it doesn't necessarily mean you are. So talk to a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I can't give you any medical advice. This is all just an N of 1 trial. But yeah, that 50 to 100 on average per day kind of held up, for me at least. I know Thomas in Action did another video like this where he lost over 100 hairs. So go watch that one. And he did the same thing as me where he counted all of his hairs out. So it just differs from person to person. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Hair always getting in my mouth. Because when you have short hair, voice cracks. Oh my God, I cannot speak right now. And this is still the amount of breakage I put